Oh, Brother Anthony, thank you for coming. This is Pastor Sidney of the All Faith Liberation Church. We have been on kind of a hiatus for a little while about the Mystic Holy Rollers Mystic podcast, but we're back here with Gospel of Thomas. We're going to start with saying 61 and see how long we'll go today. Does that sound good to you, Brother Anthony?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great. Well, I will read the first one. It's interesting. I was looking up the background of Salome the disciple, as opposed to Salome the lady who danced and led to the killing of Jesus' friend John the Baptist. So Salome is not thought of, except in some traditions, as the same person. She's just another lady named Salome, who was the follower of Jesus, one of the myrrh bearers who came to help Jesus' body the next day and discovered he was gone. And there was all that to say, saying 61 is this. 61, Jesus said, "Two will recline on a couch. One will die, one will live." Salome said, "Who are you, mister? You have climbed onto my couch and eaten from my table as if you are from someone." Jesus said to her, "I am the one who comes from what is whole. I was granted from the things of my Father. He was granted from the things of my Father. I am your disciple," Salome says. And then Jesus says, "For this reason I say, if one is whole, one will be filled with light. But if one is divided, one will be filled with darkness." I can either go on to a couple.
That's very interesting. He says that.
Go on and say.
It's like, you ever heard of a jar parable where they talk about how some jars will be given a perfect seal and none of the water or nothing will leak out? It's almost the same metaphor as being whole. When you're whole, it's embracing both sides of the spectrum.
I love this.
You kind of get what I mean? There's no judgment.
Right. I think this kind of, obviously the Eucharist concept has been played with by various Nicene, as well as Gnostic Christians, as well as other kinds of folks over the time. And there's certainly a thought that Jesus would eat as you eat, rather than eat what you eat. If I could just skip ahead to one of the last sayings, just to tell my point, I think it's this one. Jesus in saying 108 says, Jesus said, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will be like me. I myself shall become that person, and the hidden things will be revealed to him." So that's later on, and we could talk about it at another date. But the idea that he's sitting there laying on a couch with his friend Salome, and in order to do it that way, he kind of becomes the food as well as the person eating with her, as well as she in the process of eating. All of that is the mystery of the Eucharist too. Although it's not simply, oh, we're eating Jesus. It's more like we're eating as Jesus ate. We're eating we're sharing the action, not the noun.
I feel like it could be a union of body and spirit.
Yes.
Or union between spirit and soul.
I love this.
Because no matter how much we want to bash our body, I learned that it's when you tame your body, you just don't do those things. You kind of get what I mean?
Continue with that, friend.
Because taming yourself is just like giving discipline. Like, okay, if I'm not going to do this, I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
It's being truthful really with yourself. Like, that's being whole. Like, knowing that, how should I say, you are Satan and God at the same time. How about that? Is that the best way to explain it?
Exactly.
And the unification of both brings the whole, the entirety together.
So in other words, knowing the negative, the positive, the neutral, and every other aspect of yourself is kind of what Jesus' message and the book of Revelation talks about too. I was sending out some comments and other people's, other creators I look on YouTube, Dan McClellan, Reverend Ed Travers, a couple other people, that I was sending out the idea that part of the reason that the end times and all that stuff is interesting to people is the time where we can actually fuse the positive and the negatives together. Kind of like the seven-headed beast is negative, but the seven spirits of God is positive. Kind of like the Whore of Babylon Is
you know what I see right
yeah,
now going on in the world? To be honest with you,
yeah,
I see the oppressed starting to raise up against the oppressors.
I totally see
Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. The meek shall rise and inherit what belongs to them.
That's beautiful, friend. Obviously, Jesus talked about that in the Beatitudes the same way. The meek will inherit the earth. I believe that's in Matthew 5 or.
And no matter how much people don't want to, they will hate me for saying this. But civilization started in Africa. I'm sorry, baby. Sorry to bust your bubble, but civilization started in Africa.
Absolutely.
You know, and some of the imagery of the Judaism religion is they make it form like, okay, God wrestles with who? Jacob, right?
Yes.
And what he said, his name is Israel, right?
Right.
All right. And we always keep hearing this about who are those that carry the name of God. Right. But God said in a certain sense his name was Israel. So his people are going to inherit Israel in their heart, in their mind, in their spirit. Right. They're going to inherit it again.
And that is...
And those are the ones that are going to rise.
Absolutely. Kind of like the whole story of the folk in the Bible, especially in those early years, in Genesis and before Exodus, were really poor people. Like, they didn't have a lot of things, and they represented the meek. And then through Ishmael and Isaac, the Muslims and the Christians followed the Jews in the people of God, being all of us exhorted to the meek shall inherit the earth. But you're quite right to center it in Africa, friend, because everybody back in the Bible were black. I mean, everybody was African. I mean, every single person, Jewish, Pharaoh,
that's where
everybody.
You get this social racism stemming out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because of the denial of history.
Denial of history, yes.
What's happening is we're taking a shift back 3,500 years where Africa may become the center of the earth again.
Right,
where everything is going to stem out from there. Because you're looking at the world, you got all these powers fighting each other, and these people are slowly revolutionizing. Because if you actually look at Africa, they're making strides right now. So, like, let them fight. We're going to maintain and start getting our country together. Because this is starting off with certain parts, but there's about 4 or 5 countries already unifying with these people.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
You know,
there's talk of the United States of Africa again. I heard somebody on the YouTube a couple of weeks ago talking about a younger person saying that was the original idea after colonialism in the 50s and 60s. A lot of people wanted to have a united Africa because that would be the richest country in the world. And
basically what you're saying is that the indigenous people are the children.
Yes, children.
Indigenous tribes that they wiped out and took all across the world in all different parts are mainly black people. Black people are all over the world right now.
Yes.
Even if they might even have been here before, you know what I mean?
For sure.
And they might have found it here and they might have rewritten history.
Absolutely. I love
say, hey, you know, there was really never no slaves. They just enslaved the people that were here.
Right.
Because you look at a lot of pictures, Indians were dark.
For sure. I mean, they say the Olmecs, the oldest ones, the Toltecs, the very, very ancient, thousands of years ago, folks that are considered Indians, were actually African also. Like Dr. Imhotep, Dr. David Imhotep, a few years ago, had to create his own academic discipline because there was no actual, studies of Africa, even in African universities. But he went to different universities, got the money together, got the research together, and proved that there was a sea route between Africa and South America, and that there were black people in South America 50,000 years ago. Now, what he said is that the Mongolian folk that came down the land bridge up through Alaska met the black people coming up north through South America, and they all became the folk that we call the Indians, the folk that we call the indigenous people of the Americas. So that there's really all these races already in it, including African there. And of course, these are the people who have been kicked out all the time of the civilization. They're going to be fine when civilization falls, and they're going to take over, and it's going to be a better world which is exactly what
That's where the Bible really. That's where I refer to as the New Jerusalem.
New Jerusalem. That's right. That's right. Chapter
indigenous people come back and unifying what's the entire planet.
Yes,
for instance, when it talks about what are the two brothers that get into it over
Esau and Jacob?
And one was supposed to be Esau and Jacob.
Right.
This is what you're seeing playing out right now.
Nice.
You guys were in power, and now it's going to be our time to shine and show the world what we're about.
The time of white domination civilization is on its way out, no matter what they do with it, and it's going to be good to watch it fail and fall and destroyed, because really the rest of us, including Caucasians, are going to be so much better off without that imperial evil presence of the devil in the world.
Yeah, I get it. Yep. And it's just hard when you talk to people because people don't realize that they don't see this. They think it's just. And we're getting off topic, way off topic.
Of course, Fred, of course. We should talk about, Brother Anthony, at your convenience, some other time we'll have a whole discussion about what we're talking about right now. And if you want to, and you can hold forth on what you have to say. I have a lot of things I want to listen to and talk to you about, so that'd be great. But we will go back.
Yeah, because me and you are great minds, and we just kind of
Thank you. I love it.
You're off because it all stems together.
Definitely.
At the end of the day.
Especially
you pull that economic string and you find all types of fucking weird shit happening.
For sure. I mean, really, the thing that one of the reasons I'm really grateful that we have this church community and all the people in it who are just brilliant people is that we really can bring all the forms of knowledge, including economic and political, but not confined to economic and political. It doesn't only have to be an economic solution or a political solution. It's also a spiritual solution. And this is what what we're exploring here. I will go on though. I'll go to 62. We'll just do saying 62. Jesus said, "I disclose my mysteries to those who are worthy of my mysteries." Or without that actually includes a couple brackets that were put in there to make it a sentence that is understandable. I'm going to do it in the original. I disclose my mysteries to those of my mysteries. Or to those of mysteries. So in other words, if you are of the knowledge of spirituality, just like you and I came together, even though we didn't know each other years ago, it was destined that we were going to come together, talk about the goddess, talk about wisdom, talk about God, all this. Is of mysteries, I know of mysteries, and we find each other. And it seems like that is how Jesus communicates with us. That's my take on it. You go and say what you want to say.
I'm good. Hey, you pretty much covered it up.
Okay, great. 63, saying 63. Jesus said, "There was a rich person who had a great deal of money. He said, I shall invest my money so that I may sow, reap, plant, and fill my storehouses with produce, that I may lack nothing." These were the things that he was thinking in his heart, but that very night he died. Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen. That's a tough fucking saying. Forgive me. That's a tough saying.
He wanted to do it efficiently. A lot of the messages about the storehouse has to do with what you produce within your own garden.
Yes.
So if you're going to produce things that comes from yourself and sell them, that's not a very good thing.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I saw it almost like, make your plans. This scares me too, because there's many plans I have yet to make, put in position. A lot of people in the church want to do things. And it's like, he's basically saying to me, as well as to you and everybody listening, that do the thing you want to do. Actually do it, because you can drop dead with all these plans.
Basically, what you're saying is live in the moment.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Which is a Buddhist concept.
Indeed.
Because you can't live in the future, which is what you're saying, and you can't live in the past. Because if you live in the past, you live in a hellhole dwelling, which is hell.
Right.
And if you live too much into the future, the future could be a hellish thing. It's better to live in the present. And yeah, I get where you're going there. Live in the present and enjoy life.
And
don't plan, enjoy.
And let the plans come from, the moment, like how, Allah, Jesus, everyone, Mary, they're helping us right now realize the things we're going to do. Instead of living in the future with, I'll help people in the future, help people now and help yourself now.
No.
Saying 64. Jesus said, a person was receiving guests. When he had prepared the dinner, he sent his slave to invite the guests. The slave went to the first and said to that one, my master invites you. That one said, some merchants owe me money. They are coming to me tonight. I have to go and give them instructions. Please excuse me from dinner. The slave went to another and said to that one, my master has invited you. That one said to the slave, I have bought a house, and I have been called away for a day. Shall have no time. The slave went to another and said to that one, my master invites you. That one said to the slave, my friend is to be married, and I am to arrange the banquet. I shall not be able to come. Please excuse me from dinner. The slave went to another and said to that one, my master invites you. That one said to the slave, I have bought an estate. I am going to collect the rent. I shall not be able to come. Please excuse me. The slave returned and said to his master, those whom you invited to dinner have asked to be excused. The master said to his slave, go out on the streets and bring back whomever you find to have dinner. Buyers and merchants will not enter the places of my Father. And that last
basically,
yeah, go ahead.
To me, they turned down the lights.
Right.
Jesus is offering them to come, get the light of God, or open solely the light of God, but yet they turned it down.
So even the people that he was hoping to reach, other people will be able to answer. So that basically it becomes it's from everyone. It's from everyone. And I want to just say that Luke 14:16-24 has the same story in it. I won't read the Luke story, but it's almost the same word for word story. Just to give a little credence to this non-canonical gospel to show you that the canonical gospels often agree with the Gospel of Thomas. I'll do one more, friend. Not one more, but
the only thing they disagree on is the date and the time that it's supposed to be written in.
I see.
Because some of the sayings can go back as far as like before BC.
I believe.
Some of the sayings stay a little bit later, but that's the thing. They just can't They can pinpoint when the paper was produced, but that doesn't pinpoint when the gospel actually existed.
Sure.
You gotta get what I mean.
For sure.
The gospel could have existed thousands of years before the papyrus it was written on.
For sure. Well, Jesus, I was talking to my mother earlier today, Mother Joanne, and I came up with it was Brother Carlos. It was Elder Carlos that I came and sent something. Let me see what I can do here. I'll show you what that was. So I'm sorry. Give me a moment. Here we go. It was that Jesus had come not to destroy the law of the prophets, but to fulfill them. Matthew 5:17. So the fact that he's channeling older things is fulfilling the prophets and the law, even if they're older than his own life.
No, I get what you're saying, but in the defense of the text itself, it could be maybe he wrote it himself. Who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? Maybe it was written first, early. You know what I mean? Like 30 BC. 30 AD. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe you can't with those Gnostic Gospels. It's hard to pin them down because even with the originals. Vatican's got all the originals.
Right.
That's why they're trying to hide everything.
I hear you. Well, go ahead, friend.
Because a lot of our scriptures, a lot of our texts, a lot of our stuff fell into their hands too as well. Because they marched down from Rome and they freaking killed everything in sight.
No, totally. There's so many unremembered genocides and atrocities that go back and back and back. And we've come to think of it as very normal that the Roman Empire was a stable thing, but it was actually full of all kinds of atrocities every generation. The army was going and killing people, ripping off people, raping them, and burning their cities down. And that's just unfortunately the truth. It never was something peaceful. The powerful, churches of now have their roots in, witch burnings and Indian massacres and slave trade. Whether it be the Anglican Church or the Catholic Church or the Orthodox churches, Or some of the more newer Protestant churches, several hundred years old, also did a lot of that stuff. What I really like about what we do is we allow it to be not so much dogma, is actual conversation that is reaching us in the present moment. Again, an argument for doing the present moment.
Well, first of all, in history, you don't hear anything about Gnostics mass murdering people.
No, Gnostics never did. There were mass murder.
Even from the people that are writing against it.
Yes.
The only thing they found wrong about it is they said it was heresy.
So it was only the fact that they had a different opinion, not because they actually did evil things. And you're right about that. If the Gnostics had ever done evil shit, we would have heard about it by now. The people against the Gnostics would have said, oh, look how terrible they were. But because they didn't do that stuff, there's no evidence of that.
Yeah, there would have been evidence, some sort of evidence about it.
And they would have used it as a weapon, the enemies of Gnosticism.
That's the weapon that they have about the Gospel of Thomas is always dated 350. That's what they'll say. Okay, the papyri could be dated 350, but the sayings itself, you find them in Egypt.
Well, and I've said this before. I think a lot of what Jesus was doing.
And from Egypt, my son shall rise.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of what Rabbi Jesus was doing was taking the law, and a lot of what the law was people talking about what it was like to have been Egyptian and having like Egyptian ideas in their diaspora, leaving Egypt, going around the various parts of Canaan and the world. They were carrying things of other knowledges, including Egyptian knowledge. A lot of what Jesus talks about, a lot of what we get into as the Gnostic spirit is very, very old and found in temples long before any of us were here, in Egypt. And in places south of Egypt, like Nubia and Ethiopia, and that.
A lot of them were just copied and buried in the ground, so generations later could find it.
And that isn't it interesting that some of these knowledges just got here in the last sometimes decades. I mean, Nag Hammadi and all that was after World War II, after the whole terrible thing of the Satan kind of world being, very nearly winning and been destroyed by a lot of heroic generations. Right then is when they discovered the new knowledge. Almost like God said, okay, you went through this shit. Here's now some knowledge for you to actually gain what you lost. And the Gospel of Judas didn't come into people until the late 70s, which I was alive when I was a kid. The Gospel of Judas didn't exist yet in people's minds. So that's in my lifetime. We have new tools. Should I go on with another saying?
Yeah, it's funny how we went all the way out to that, but that's where a lot of it comes from.
For sure, I love that about what we're doing. Let's see. 65, saying 65. He said, a person owned a vineyard and rented it to some farmers so they could work it and he could collect its crop from them. He sent his slaves to the farmers to give him the vineyard's crop. They grabbed him, beat him, and almost killed him, and the slave returned and told his master. His master said perhaps he didn't know them. He sent another slave, and the farmers beat that one as well. Then the master sent his son, and he said, perhaps they should show my son some respect. But the farmers knew that he was their heir to their vineyard, so they grabbed him and killed him. Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen. Obviously a reference to like himself following the prophets. The prophets, you beat up the prophets, you killed me. That's what he was saying. It's like every time, that's my obvious reading is that he's referring to himself.
Or he's referring to the energies that can take you over.
Go ahead with that.
The energies you take in, and it could be not good for you, and it could beat you up inside and steal your treasure.
Interesting.
Because if you're a negative person and you see things in a revengeful light, everything that's going to come to you is going to be revenge. And like it says, those who first think about revenge will be at their doorstep. It's like a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's a little weird. I can get.
You can go on. Keep going. Go on.
But it'd be like, say, taking in a gym.
I see.
And you can't control the gym. So the chain controls you. Which would be like a shaman type of thing, because the shamanism, they talk about how they take the spirits out of people.
Definitely.
Like bits and stuff. Evil spirits. Whatever you want to call it.
That's an interesting reading of this. So interesting. So you're seeing the garden and the vineyard is kind of like our souls, our bodies and stuff, and these things are, spirits sent in, but they're destroyed or beat up because people aren't ready to find the gnosis and the growth.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Only words, yeah. It's like, it could be like, it's just about anything. Sex could be something that can destroy you.
Sure.
You're letting in other people's energy, you're taking in other women, all types of forms of semen, or you're putting your dick in all different types of universal wombs. Let's call it the universal womb. Because the universe is like a womb. It's like a mother. Mother holds it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And the life. And that's the way we were born as well.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it could be something like bad things. Like, it could be anything. Drinking. If drinking corrupts you.
Right. It was the same thing you're saying earlier in the conversation, that the same good can be bad. Sexuality can be very good, but it can also become enslaving. Alcohol and other drugs, I mean, I don't really like alcohol myself, but I can see that, and I've all experienced that it can be a freeing thing. It can lead you to good things. Certainly, other drugs can be good or bad, but it really depends on. That's really the thing before us constantly. So what's before us constantly is: are we going to make the decision not just based on what it is for itself, but what do we do with this gift of the spirit? What do we do with this gift of life? And it is not written in stone what to do. And there is no rule book that we can look at and then go to sleep. We have to be awake in this time period. That's why it's the end times. Because it's the times,
I think what we're not realizing is every culture has a section of the story. Say, for instance, manifestation in the Bible. All right, it's telling you to go within yourself, right?
Yeah.
Buddhism is teaching you how to feel that energy out.
Yes.
You gotta get what I mean?
I'm listening.
So, in essence, you can get something from all over the place. Different truths is what we call it.
Well, that's
different steps to it. Because if you can not only visualize, feel, that's manifestation.
Well, that's what I like about the
It's teaching you how to calm your mind and feel out the energies to talk to the force around you.
Well, that's what I like about all faith liberation, the idea that we really require to knowledge of all faiths to get the liberation, which is that there's a one liberation in many of the ideas. But it's so really beautifully, with all the poetry of different cultures and different time periods and histories, can help you educate and reinforce the knowledge you're getting, which is the knowledge of spirit. Which, as we said the saying right here, is something that if you know it, you know it. It's like, I disclose those 62. I disclose the mysteries to those who are of my mysteries and are worthy of them. I would like to read a few more, Anthony, and up to 70, and then we can discuss, and then we'll be maybe like make an end to this episode. So I'll just read them. I'll read them in a row. Saying 66, Jesus said, "Show me the stone that the builders rejected. That is the keystone." Saying 67, Jesus said, "Those who know all but are lacking in themselves are utterly lacking." Saying 68. Jesus said, "Congratulations to you when you are hated and persecuted, and no place will be found wherever you have been persecuted." And saying 69, Jesus said, "Congratulations to those who have been persecuted in their hearts. They are the ones who have truly come to know the Father." Wow, that feels good to hear. "Congratulations to those who go hungry, so the stomach of the one in want may be filled." And then we'll end on 70. Jesus said, "If you bring forth what is within you, and what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, and you do not have within you what you do not have within you will kill you." And that's what
That one's interesting.
Yeah, answer any of those or say any of those. A lot of those are like familiar from the canonical, like the keystone being rejected, being the the cornerstone being rejected. But go ahead, answer of those if you anything you want to say.
The cornerstone is actually pretty interesting because it was like Jesus was always rebelling against the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin would be like, well, that goat is not perfect. And Jesus would be like, it's just perfect right now. I said, you don't want it, I'll take it.
Right.
You know, or the whole money in the front of the temple and everything else like that. Oh, you're crazy. No, he just doesn't want a merchant house in the temple.
Right.
And that's what was going on.
Well, it's very much like we come on cycles and circles of people. Whatever religion people are, it's very much like the wealthy have kind of taken this knowledge and frozen it. Hang on a second, friend. I've got something. I got the people. I got to be right back. Hello, we're back. Sorry, go ahead, Brother Anthony. What you want to say?
Which one was that one that you just said?
Persecution?
About that. Well, the persecution is even a prophet, he was never received from his village.
Right.
People do not receive the light of God because they don't understand it.
And they have a tendency to try to like diminish the children and diminish the people they're familiar with. So they always want to look to further away to find what might be right in front of them.
Yeah. So it's like the inner and the outer, same thing. Well, as the inner light shines outside yourself. And like people see it and they don't understand it. So like, for instance, you know how he says in earlier about put a light under a table where you can't see it, you know what I mean?
Right.
A light sits out so all can see. So that light that shines within you flows outwards and people don't like it. Because you shatter their illusions.
Shatter their illusions, exactly. I think a lot of people listening and a lot of people in our world too, of our friends, we've gone through times where we had the right answer, but it bothered people because it was the right answer, not because it was the wrong answer, but because it was the right answer. And I think
they rather have a lie than the truth.
Yeah, they want their lies to remain powerful, even though they're obviously full of just holes and falling apart as they even try to say them.
They want to eat hors d'oeuvres. They want to eat fresh hors d'oeuvres while there's little children working the mind.
That's right, my man. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And Jesus specifically said a lot of hateful things about people like that. I'll have the two things I was going to say that you might want to look at too. You are saying the 67. Those who know all but are lacking themselves are utterly lacking, and also 70. If you bring forth what is within you, what you will If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you. So those are both on the same level of like internal knowledge.
That's like for instance, you know how Jesus talks about light the fire within you?
Yes.
So if you do not have that light, but you have to spark and ignite yourself, that which you don't have will kill you.
Yeah, the
if you don't have the light,
the lack,
you're lacking.
Definitely. And that's what the world is, right?
That's is too.
Go ahead.
It's like a person who thinks, for instance, we'll go with a man. A man is always taught that he needs to have a woman.
Right.
His whole life. So his whole life he's going through his psyche's telling him he needs a woman.
Right.
But yet a woman don't come.
Right.
He feels like he's lacking that in his life when he doesn't realize he's actually really rich.
Well, you know what? If you really could understand...
Almost back to what says right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
People don't see what's right in front of them.
No, I know. I want to say, too, that really a lot of the knowledge that Jesus brought is the woman and the man in each of us, and the fact that we're all kind of many things. So therefore, you're never lacking. And if you have something to give, people will want to be with you. People will want to join with you. If you're only looking to grab from other people, you're a vampire. You're not really complete. And that's unfortunately what they teach people to be. So like the binarism of gender is there to make everybody enslaved, whether they be a man constantly without, a woman constantly without, trans people aren't allowed to exist, non-binaries exist, intersex is not allowed to exist, because they don't want the freedom for all people, including men, to be actually feeling that they have themselves wealth, that they have themselves goodness, and that they can be generous with others rather than try to take from them.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a relationship where it's kind of like faith and love.
Yeah.
You can't have faith without loving something. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
You can't love something without having faith in it. Because
right.
You have to have faith in what you love and what you represent. You know?
And the thought of faith, hope, and love, you need all three, but of them all, according to the Bible, is love. Because love will generate the faith and generate the hope.
Love, truth. Truth is like wisdom and understanding the truth, which is the true wisdom. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
The truth is the truth. So, like, that's love too. Like, love is harsh, man. Love could be beautiful and it could be harsh. It's a double-edged sword. Just like devil and God. It's a perspective that you look through. Because a person can only be hurt when another person hurts them when the love was real to that person.
Right. That's why it is everything we're talking about, the double-edged, dual nature of everything. That is what the Gnosticism is teaching me. That is what looking at the Revelation and the end times is. The microcosm of our little world, of ourselves, and the macrocosm of the big world is going through the same crisis. We're all going crazy to try to come out of a better way, to be a healthier, healing person, to be one with the goddess and the God together, like chapter 19 says, like the later chapters after that is promising, that we have the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And we find out from what you were saying months ago that that's your spine. That is the root of Jesse, that you are the root of Jesse, that we are all, Jesus Christ. We are all that. We're also Mother Mary giving birth to Jesus Christ. And that's just constantly beautiful when you think about it.
And you can also look at the 7 chakras as the 7 deadly sins that you need to overcome within yourself.
Definitely.
So if you want to look at that as a perspective, like
the 7 chakras, the 7 sins, the 7 virtues.
I was also taught the 7 churches. Mm-hmm. There's all different types of interpretations, but it's a matter of you getting to understand those chakras in yourself. And if you get them all working, right, you're supposed to develop what the Gnostics talk about, the divine child, which is the heart. You're a divine child. Doesn't matter, man, woman, that's why it's called the divine child.
Right.
That's what that would be like being more than a prophet, almost Jesus himself.
We are then following the way of Jesus out of our own belly button, giving birth to ourselves, like Asar gave birth to Haru, or Osiris gave birth to Horus, with the love of Nebuchadnezzar and Isis, or if you will, a set. Well, the idea of our wisdom fusing with ourselves.
I should say this, because a lot of people don't understand this. The word Israel is a breakdown of 3 gods.
Yes. Ra, El, and what was the first?
Isis.
Ra
and El.
Oh, how lovely. And is that the ancient gods that were guiding the people, and they came up with that name? It is from Egypt.
Those are the Egyptian gods.
Those are Egyptian gods.
Which is crazy.
Which brings us the idea
they condemned them. I don't understand that. You condemn the very gods that you represent.
And we all say Amen, no matter we Muslim, Jewish, or Christian. Amen Ra is supposedly condemned by all 3. We're living in the contradiction that we have to solve. We have to fuse these dialectic of what we have and what we see, what we need, we kind of fuse it together in what we are. And I think that is like the biggest mystery that I'd like to continue to talk about on this. If it's okay, Anthony. Yeah, go ahead.
Which is crazy because that's African spirituality.
Which brings us back to the beginning of this conversation. God bless Africa. God bless the world. God bless you, Anthony. And thank you for continuing to have this exploration with me and other people. I talked to Brother John last week. He comes from Norse goddess spirituality. He read the Voluspa a few months ago. I don't know if you'd like it, but he might be interested in joining us a little bit, if that would be good, to talk more about. He has no interest in the God thought, but he likes the idea of what we're talking about with the goddess thought. And of course, we're talking about both at once and many other things.
Yeah, how they both come together as like one.
The form of Jesus is the fusion of all of them.
It all stems out.
Totally.
That's what the pyramid looks like. You got the light that sits up top, and then the bottom symbolizes the two, and the two goes into many, many more, many more, many more.
God bless them. Brother Anthony, thanks you for joining me this week. Let's try to do this soon again.
Yes, we need to do it more often. I've been a little bit slacking.
Don't worry about it. You did so much, and I really appreciate you, friend.
No, I gotta call myself out.
Well, you also was going through some mourning, and that's like you need to create space for that. Folks will eventually hear what we have to say, but you gotta take care of your family too. You gotta take care of people. Well, God bless you, Anthony. Thanks for joining us. Is there anything you want to say before we put it off?
No, sir.
Well, sir, I appreciate you. Love you very much. Let's get together soon. We'll have a conversation next week. We'll be doing more of the Gospel Thomas soon. God bless y'all. Thank you.